It's match day in the Premier League. Arsenal facing Brentford in the Emirates Stadium a little bit later on today, this evening. We've got some transfer news to discuss and some good news going into this evening's fixture and some rather entertaining news regarding one of our rivals' managers. This is the Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you as always for and thank you for making us part of your morning routines. I just realised that I hadn't plugged in the microphone. Ugh, so annoying, so frustrating, so irritating. It's done. It's done now. It's done. I don't care. It's done. I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to edit it. I haven't got time. I'm too busy. But we're back. We're back. The sound is recovered, so don't worry about that. But good morning to those joining us in the chat box, who I will say hello to in just a second, because I need to discuss a very important problem. Now, it's not your problem, but it's kind of our problem, and it's my fault. Because in yesterday's quick-fire morning show that I was in a rush because I had to get to the station, to get the train, to go to London, to work. And in my rush, I forgot to push the 1K like every day. And that's on me. It's not on you. It's on me. And because of that, because of my stupidity and incompetence, we're about 100 off the 1,000 on yesterday morning show. So we have the 24-hour rule, the 24-hour safety, the 24-hour backup plan. And that's the chance to get that show to 1,000 likes from yesterday morning show. Otherwise, the challenge is done. It's over. It's finished. So the job is twofold today. If you liked yesterday's show, thank you. There was over nearly 900 of you that did, which, to be fair, without being reminded, is a hell of an achievement in itself. But yes, thank you to those that have. But if you haven't done so already, or you're listening on catch up, after you've dropped your like on this video, make sure you head over to yesterday's live show and also fulfill your task for the morning and do that over there as well. But good morning to Matt G, to Amesy, to Kaiser, to Rich, Arasilki, Blackshire, Martin, Babatundi, Sweating Merlot, Morgie, whose wife is also celebrating a birthday today. So happy birthday to Mrs. Morgie. Amesy and Paul and Runs with Cows, Damien, Mike, Pam, Brian, Roy, Stephen, Shiv and David, Amira, Peter, Mr. Ree, Martin, Stevie, and plenty more of you guys and girls in the chat box as well. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. It is very much appreciated. And I hope you've had a fantastic week. And I hope that we are going to be enjoying an even better weekend as well. Let's jump into today's stories, though. We kick off with the under-21s, who faced a very good Tottenham side, who are top of the PL2 table and are yet to lose this season, I think. They've won 11 games and drawn 1 before this, and Arsenal still managed to avoid defeat. They were losing all the way up into the 89th minute when Ethan Nwaneri was there to do the business on the day and secure a point for Mehmet Ali's side in very impressive fashion indeed, and it will be a very welcome point for Mehmet Ali and his side after, as I say, being down for so much of that game. Arsenal are pushing for an equaliser for much of the match. Reuel Waters also returned to the action as well. He'd been missing a little bit with an injury recent. That's why he's not been in the senior side also, which was good to see him back. But yes, plenty to be happy about. And I think plenty of encouragement as well from that game, which is important. Moving forwards, though, and into the transfer stories of the day. And Arsenal are said to be leading the race for Joshua Zirkzee. The Dutch international and Bologna forward, of course, has been linked with Arsenal for quite some time. But Daniele Longo from Calcio Mercato, I know that we do our little short salt shakers for Italian media sometimes, but Daniele Longo is one of the better and well-connected Italian sources, and he reports that Arsenal are said to be leading the race at this stage of the day for Joshua Zirkzee. He is on that list. We know he's on that list of players that Arsenal are keen on. However, whether he turns out to be the number one remains to be seen. But for sure, he is certainly one of those that Arsenal
are looking at amongst a number of centre forwards. Now, it is, of course, as I mentioned, Premier League day, and looking at the games this weekend, Manchester United take on Everton in the early kickoff, a massive game for Everton to try and pick up some points. Bournemouth then are the first of the 3 o'clock kickoffs against Sheffield United, Crystal Palace against Luton, Wolves against Fulham, and then the 5:30 kickoff, of course, at the Emirates. I'll be there this afternoon. Arsenal against Brentford. Then tomorrow we've got another big game of the weekend, Aston Villa against Spurs. That race for fourth, a massive fixture there. Brighton and Hove Albion take on Forest at 2. West Ham United also taking on Burnley at the same time. And then the big game of the weekend, the biggest of games until, of course, March 31st, when Arsenal will travel up to the Etihad. But hosting Manchester City is Liverpool at 3:45. Perhaps we'll talk more about that game tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. when we do a roundup of today's result against Brentford. And then Monday night is Chelsea against Newcastle, another important game for who might finish in the top half of the table. Going ahead slides there, but Guardiola uses Arsenal to dig out Liverpool. It was a really interesting press conference from Pep Guardiola. Yesterday, he spoke about Trent Alexander-Arnold. He was kind of asked about the fact that Trent, in an interview, I think it was with 442, said that any title won by Liverpool means more than any title won by Manchester City, to which he simply responded, I wish Trent a very swift recovery from his injury, which was just gloriously like the best no comment that you've probably ever got. But he was also asked about the title race, and he said, Arsenal is already there. Last season, they were our biggest rivals. Look how they play. Liverpool need more than 90 minutes to win the game. Arsenal sometimes need 25 minutes to win the game. And you have to appreciate the brilliance of those words and those comments going into the game against Liverpool this weekend. I think Reece says it shows he's feeling the pressure. I don't think he's feeling the pressure at all. I think this is just prime Pep. He knows exactly how to do this. He's won this competition so many times. He's unflappable so often. And I think this is a very well-veiled dig towards Liverpool. It's not even well-veiled, really. It's pretty obvious what he means by that. And he's trying to dig out Liverpool and also back his mate Arteta too. But he's right. You know, Arsenal, I think, are playing the best football in the league at the moment and looking the most threatening. And with only 2 points separating all the teams, Arsenal can go top of the table if they win today against Brentford, of course. Then there's plenty to be excited about. But the biggest news of the day, and for those that are eagle-eyed when looking at the released images, Arsenal trained once again at the Emirates Stadium. It's becoming more of a regularity now, as Arteta apparently tries to find that familiarity with the field again and that connection with the stadium. And who knows if we'll get another promotional video this morning. I hope we do. I quite like them. I like the one that they did before the game against Newcastle. And Martin Odegaard in the programme notes has already talked about how he wants to see the noise brought once again. It's also worth pointing out for those that are attending the game in the North Bank Lower that the flags, of course, will be available once again. But these are the possessions of the club. They are not souvenirs to take home. Please, if you are in the North Bank Lower, leave those flags behind. They are to be reused every single week to try and help aid the atmosphere. They are not gifts, so it's worth pointing that out. But back to the images from training, and of course, Gabriel Jesus was involved, Thomas Partey, Jurrien Timber was involved as well. You can see in the background of this image, sometimes it can be sometimes a little bit tricky to work out the blurry backgrounds, but without a doubt, on the right-hand side of that picture is Bukayo Saka. And Bukayo Saka is indeed and has been spotted in training. However, there is still no sign of Gabriel Martinelli. Now, just because he's not pictured in any of these photographs, unlike the eagle-eyed amongst us spotting Bukayo Saka, it does not mean that he was not there. They try to be somewhat clever with the images that they take during those sessions and the videos that they take as well. But Gabriel Martinelli doesn't look like he is there. And to be honest, we don't need to risk Martinelli. We don't have to risk him. We've got Trossard. Trossard can come in and we can play with Saka, Havertz and Trossard in a very comfortable and very effective front three that I would hope to be starting today, and then rest Martinelli for that game against Porto on Tuesday. So that is what we're looking at. But it's just nice to have that security of seeing Saka, I think, in those photos. And you know how you can get some really good security on your laptop or your phone or your tablet, your technical digital devices, you know, and sometimes you need that safety. Sometimes you need that security. And there is a tool which you can use to provide that for you. And that is NordVPN, which can give you the safety and security you need when surfing the noise. I was going to say surfing the noise. You might be surfing some noise, surfing the internet online. And if you want to keep yourself safe and secure and private and protected, and so you don't have those peeping Todd Bowleys that might be looking at the transfer targets that you want Arsenal to sign, well, you need NordVPN, and you can get NordVPN for a fantastic deal by going to nordvpn.com/Gooner to get a significant discount off a 1 or a 2-year plan. If indeed you do get that 2-year plan, you get 4 months extra as well. And there's even a little birthday gift if you would like to donate some months of VPN, depending upon the plan that you get, to a friend at the moment as well. Go to the link down in the description. Make sure that you're getting involved in the ability to change a geolocation on any of those devices. A friend of mine is moving to the east soon, and he's going to be there for a couple of years, in fact, for some work. And they were asking me, do you know any good VPN services that are around that would allow me to watch, you know, like ITV and BBC whilst I'm out in Asia? And I was like, you know what? Yes, I do. I do. And in fact, I'll be able to give you a discount code very soon. And there is that discount code, nordvpn.com/Gooner. Make sure you go to the link. And I look forward to seeing plenty of you sign up and continue to using a fantastic service once again. And of course, there are still tickets available for the Declan Rice prize as well. So do not miss out on the opportunity to get this. I think there's around 70. I think I checked last night and there was about 70. 90. There's about 90 tickets left of the competition. So best of luck to those that are getting involved in the latest Declan Rice prize, a signed and framed shirt with a built-in LED TV playing some of the players' best highlights and some instant win prizes as well. You can get all the details of that on the website, link down in the description. Right, let's go to part 2 then, and your questions right after this. Okay, part 2, which of course is your part and your questions. As I mentioned at the start of the show, please do drop a like on the video. Help us to 1K every single day. And if you've not yet dropped a like on yesterday's video, we've got 24 hours to save this challenge. It was my fault. I didn't push it because I was in a rush yesterday morning. So if you haven't already done so, please make sure you are. Zuman UK says, flags are great. Appreciate they need to be left as well after games. Obviously, with heaps going on the market for them as well. Any idea where they might be purchased? Would love a couple of those as well. I don't know where you can get hold of them to kind of purchase. I don't know if they are even available to buy, but for those that are in that lower stand at the North Bank, please do leave those behind. Ben says, any FPL tips for us, Tom? I do have some FPL tips, but I'm always reluctant to hand out my FPL tips. Because I'm not very good at fantasy football. Even though I got 104 points last week, that was my best week of the season. In fact, I was a better captain pick and a better defender pick away from getting potentially the highest score of the entirety of fantasy. But sadly, I couldn't deliver on that front. But yeah, I think obviously there's a double game week this week. There's some players that are going to be probably in high ownership, like Dominic Solanke, like Doughty of Luton, and probably Neto as well in goal. So maybe look into the double game week. But you've got to remember that next week, there is loads of games not happening. So if you've got your free hit, you might want to save it for next week so you can make sure you pick up some points when they are going to be very much needed. Rob says, can you imagine if we somehow slip up against Brentford and then draw with Porto and lose against Manchester? I bet Arteta outs will break out. Of course they will. Yeah, of course, that's what happens. But to be fair, if we go out to Porto, if we lose today or drop points today, rightfully will be having some very critical conversations because we shouldn't be losing these 2 games. We should be winning these 2 games going into that massive fixture at Manchester City. We need to position ourselves in the best possible place going into that game. So rightfully, there would be question marks being said. Chase says, thoughts on Alan Shearer's comments? Which ones? I've seen Alan Shearer talk about how he's exhausted watching Arteta on the touchline, which, he's entitled to that. He says that he would be embarrassed to work under Mikel Arteta. Let me read you these quotes. I've not actually read these in its full, so I'm reading them now in full for the first time. He says, I never worked under an Arteta kind of manager, someone who manically cajoling, telling you exactly where to stand or exactly what to do. I've always been of the opinion that if you're a good player, then you know that stuff anyway. If I felt I needed to drift out to the right wing or the left wing or even drop deep, I would do it myself. And as a captain, I felt I had the authority to tell my fellow players to do something. If it needed saying, I would say it. Not everybody is like that, though. Some footballers are brighter than others, some are needier than others, and some are more effective when they are given precise instructions that are forced to stick to them. Shouting, repeating, shouting again, and reiterating straightforward messages might be the best way to get through. What I wanted from my manager was to be led, to be guided. So I wouldn't have enjoyed being ranted and raved at from the touchline, and I can't remember it happening too many times. Why would I have hated it? He says professional pride. You're playing in front of thousands of people in the stadium and millions at home on television. You don't want to be embarrassed. It might sound thin-skinned, but teams are delicate. Relationships hold them together. What do I think about those comments? I think that Alan Shearer was a brilliant, brilliant footballer and a terrible, terrible manager. And there's probably reasons why their managerial and footballing kind of ways have been swapped over. Arteta was a decent footballer. To be fair, it's not even a case of being swapped over because whilst Shearer was a terrible manager, Arteta was a very decent footballer. So, he's not going to get it. He's not going to get that side of the game. And clearly it's working. Whatever Arteta's doing is working. And we're going in one direction under Arteta. So you can criticise all you like, but all the evidence is there and very clear to see at this stage. Let's go to Ramsey says, what's your favourite position to watch in football? Usually it's the inverted fullbacks at the moment, just seeing their positioning on the field. I'm always watching and seeing where they're popping up and playing. So yeah, probably the inverted fullback at the moment, just tactically learning. And sometimes when Havertz plays at centre forward, it's really interesting watching what his role is in the team beyond just watching the game as a whole. When you're in the stadium, you can watch kind of specific players, and Havertz is one that's always very enjoyable to watch and see what he does. Derek says, what are your thoughts on the academy players? Do you feel Arteta will give the young players a chance like Klopp has done? Well, Klopp has obviously been forced into doing some of them, of course, with the ridiculous number of injuries that Liverpool have faced in 2024. He's also had better options as well. You look at Bradley, for instance, the talent that kid's got, coming in to replace an injured Trent Alexander-Arnold. Arsenal don't have a youngster of the level of Bradley in their defensive options right now. So it's about making sure that you bring players in at the right time. It's about making sure that you've got good enough players at that level to bring in. But at the business end of the season, I don't see debuts being given unless it is because of necessity, rather than it just being because of the ability to do it. So I think there's been chances where we could have given players a debut or minutes at senior level and haven't, and that's disappointing, but it's not as bad as what some people try to make out. Lucas says, if Arsenal sell Eddie Nketiah, Nelson and Smith Rowe, that would full profit. That would fulfill profit for FSP. As David Ornstein said on a podcast, profit would sell. Would you get 100% profit? Means that you would be able to sell them all effectively. And I think, we've talked about this before. They're all pure profit players. They came through the academy. So you're getting maximum money in for those types of sales. And if we do sell those players in the summer, Arsenal will be looking to get as much money for them as feasibly possible. Dickens says, Tom, between the league and UEFA, where have we got a good chance of winning a cup? The league seems too tight. I've said for a long time that Champions League looks like the more likely destination for a trophy if it's going to come for Arsenal this season. But let's wait and see. Ronald says, Wolves want 80 million for Neto. How much would you pay for him? I think 60 million max. I think 60 million is probably a good ceiling to try and target in terms of negotiations. I don't think he's worth 80 million. That'd be really, really, really high and expensive to try and get a deal done for Neto at 80 million pounds. So yeah, I can't see that one happening. Let's go to John, who says, Tom, I don't rate Tony from an Arsenal perspective, but will the game today be Tony's showcase to prove us all wrong? I worry that it could be. I wrote a piece yesterday saying he could score a hat-trick, and it wouldn't really change my mind. My mind has been made up on Tony. My mind is nearly made up on the striker that I definitely want for the summer as well. I'll stay relatively open, but Tony's not even figuring on my list. He'll be more motivated today, without a doubt, and Arsenal will be looking to try and deal with that. And, I think the main thing about stopping Tony is stopping the service to Tony. If you can stop the ball getting into Tony, he becomes pretty ineffectual. So I would say that's got to be the main thing. Focus on the service, stop the ball at source, and you'll be in as best a position as you can be. Let's have a quick look into the chat box at some of the other things as well. Ajmal says, Tom, are you confident about the Porto game considering our recent records? Yes, I am, because our recent records in UEFA games at home has been to beat PSV 4-0, beat Sevilla 2-0, and beat Lens 6-0. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. John says, should we also be wary of Wissa? Without a doubt, he's a very good player. And Brian Mbuemo is threatening to be back for this weekend as well. Trevor says, I thought Tony was injured. He limped off in the last game, but Thomas Frank says that he has shaken off that issue that he had. So he will be starting today. Keenan says, what are your two priority positions for the summer if we go big? And who are those dream signings? Again, I'm kind of waiting on the dream signing stuff until the summer. At the moment, my leading striker candidate is Victor Gyökeres. But the other priority position, I think, has to be midfield. Does it not? I mean, Thomas Partey is probably going to move on. El Nenny's obviously going to move on. I think we need to look at bringing in another midfielder. And so it's midfield and forward that I think are the two key areas. Damien says, I'm more concerned about Mopé winding up our players. He has history of doing that. He has history of doing that of every team. You just got to treat him for what he is, which is a terrible footballer. And and that's about it. Archangel says, if Ramsdale and Nketiah, Nelson and Smith are going in the summer, will we be in homegrown trouble? Nope, we won't, because there is no homegrown quota. There is only a non-homegrown quota. So you need to be wary of that more than anything else. So I don't think there'll be an issue with that at all. Carl says, Tom, do you think the Manager of the Month curse will strike? Of course, I didn't even mention that. Arteta did win Manager of the Month for February. It was kind of a formality, wasn't it? So we've not really talked about that. But Arteta was actually asked about this in his press conference, and he said, he's won it and then won loads of games after winning it. So no, that superstition has very much been put to bed at this stage. Ronald says, Musiala has 2 years left in the summer. What price would you pay for him? Probably about 70 to 80 million pounds. You probably have to pay for Jamal Musiala, and he's a fantastic player as well. Rich says, what do you make of Quentin Timber? Very talented player as well, midfielder. But is he the right type of midfielder that Arsenal are looking at right now? I'm not sure he is. He's not really a defensive mid. He's more of a kind of your box to box and does more things in the final third. I'm not sure necessarily that's the midfielder that we're looking for in the summer. Let's go into Tommy says, insomnia has me making bold predictions. Mopé gets sent off and Havertz gets a hat-trick. Of course, the TGT predictions poll is still open. I've been looking through some of your suggestions. I like loads of them. I have to think about it sometimes because if Havertz hat-trick is one of my favourites, but that means I've got to predict at least a 3-goal win every single game, which makes it difficult. A lot of people suggested some crazy Cedric ones, and at the same time, whilst that's definitely unrealistic and kind of would be crazy if it happened, it's also not really got a good chance of happening in games because Cedric doesn't play. It's about finding that balance. There's been some good suggestions, and by the next preview show, probably Monday for the Porto game, we will come up with that answer. Onyx Lens says, does the inversion of Ben White correspond to the drop in confidence of William Saliba? Seems he has to cover Ben and gets caught in two minds, similar to when Big Gabby and Zinni had to cover as well. I don't think so at all. I think William Saliba's still been very, very capable, in so many games this season. Is he having to do more? Yes, absolutely. But I don't think there's a drop in confidence from Saliba. I don't think Saliba's ever experienced a drop in confidence in his life. So, yeah, I don't think there's too much in that. Lee says, Tom, would you offload Zinni in the summer? It depends on the amount of money that we got for him, Lee. If we got a very, very good offer, then potentially, but it would have to be a very good offer of well upwards of £40 million, potentially even more for me to entertain a deal to sell Alexander Zinchenko. He's a very, very good player. Andre says, how about Gabby and Gabby all scoring in the same game? That is good. Again, that does require another at least 3 goals for every single game being predicted, though. But I do like that one, Andre. I think it is very good. Ethan says a Gabriel perfect set piece hat trick, a left corner, a right corner, and a free kick. All of them headers, obviously, like at the back post, just smashing in the hardest header you've ever seen in any footballing game in history. So yeah, another nice one. But again, another one that requires 3 goals. Alfie says, Tom, could we experiment with Jesus on the left today and bring Trossard on to finish the job as usual? Depends. We're kind of managing Jesus's minutes very carefully at the moment. So that's also worth taking into consideration because his knee issue does raise some points. And John says, does Jesus start today, Tom, or do we stick with Havertz? We absolutely stick with Havertz. Why on earth would we drop him? 3 goals in the last 3 games, 2 assists in those 3 games as well. He is not being dropped. He is undroppable, is Kai Havertz at the moment. Anasimos says, cheeky question, assuming that we have a 1/3 possibility of winning the league, which is a bit generous, but would you take going out of the Champions League on Wednesday to have a 50% chance of winning the league? No, absolutely not. Keep us in both competitions, please. Ajmal says, Tom, I meant knockout games and recent knockout games like Sporting Olympiacos. I'm still not worried. It's just history. Like, next game's the next game. So, no, I'm not worried based upon that. Alvin says Odegaard to score with his head would be a surprise. It would be a surprise, but is it realistic enough to choose as our prediction? A rare assist, again, is that realistic enough that it could happen? Ben White screamer, we see him take shots from outside the box. We never see Odegaard have a headed attempt at goal. We never see Raya really. Only once, I think we've seen it happen where he's played the ball long through to Nelson that game against Liverpool. So, that wasn't even Raya, was it? It was Ramsdale that did that. So, yeah, it has to be, we've got to find this balance for this prediction. The Ben White screaming was the perfect balance. So potentially. Bola Capez says, I reckon we need to give Jorginho a rest and maybe get him off early in today's game with Thomas getting more minutes. Absolutely. I'd probably start Partey in this game, to be honest, and share the minutes with Jorginho, and Jorginho then start against Porto on Tuesday night. Valiant says, a pre-assist, an assist, and a goal. All the Gabbies, 1 goal required, though. Oh, I love that. So Gabriel Magalhaes passes to Gabriel Martinelli, who squares it for Gabriel Jesus, who scores, is basically what we're looking at there. That is quite cool. But Jesus isn't starting games at the moment as well, so that's also tricky. Maybe if he was starting games more often, we could do that. But I do like that. That would be excellent to see. The perfect Gabby goal, as it might be coined. Any order, to be fair, but yeah, I do like that, Valley. That's a very, very good suggestion. Lucas says, would you give more youngsters a run in the League Cup like Wenger did with players on that need a game? Yes, I would, if we had the chance to. At the moment, we just unfortunately keep getting some tricky games like West Ham away and Brighton at home. And then the FA Cup, we're getting Liverpool and Manchester City. So it's not like we're getting the best draws. You know, you think about when we played Oxford, so we played Nottingham Forest. We started Charlie Patino. You know, we had the opportunity to play Patino in that game. Lokonga started that game, you know. So it depends upon the opposition that you have. And if you're away at West Ham, you're at home to Brighton at the time with good teams. And we still started a debut in that game against Brighton. Carl Hine played that day in goal for the first time during that game. And I think we rotated quite heavily still with Nketiah and Nelson. I think both started that game as well. So it's difficult. It's very, very difficult because we're not getting the right draws. If we get some lower league teams, then yeah, of course, I'd love to see Arsenal throw in some of the kids. But at the moment, it's very difficult with the draws that we're sadly getting in those competitions. Harris says, just a thought. Do you want Leverkusen to be unbeaten in the league, or don't you want it to happen so Arsenal can keep that unique record for ourselves? I mean, there's teams have gone invincible in other leagues. I think, haven't Juventus gone invincible in Serie A? I honestly couldn't care less if Bayer Leverkusen went unbeaten in the Bundesliga. It's a different league. Like, going unbeaten in the Premier League is a unique achievement. Have Bayern Munich gone invincible? I think Bayern Munich might have been invincible one season. Bayern Munich invincible. Let's have a look. Bayern Munich, did they? I think they might have done. Is it 2013-14? The invincible season for Bayern. I'm trying to check on the table where they finished. Oh no, they lost 2 games that season apparently, so they weren't unbeaten. I'm sure that some other teams have gone unbeaten. AC Milan went unbeaten. Celtic went unbeaten. Barcelona apparently have gone unbeaten as well. So yeah, I mean, Barcelona, invincible season. Oh, they've had an almost unbeaten season. Doesn't look like Barca went unbeaten from looking at this list of fixtures. Oh, hold on. Oh, no, they didn't. They lost in the penultimate game of the season in match day 37. It doesn't say which game that was. Valencia, from the looks of things. So, yeah, it's a very unique achievement, but no, it doesn't bother me. If another team in another country has an unbeaten season, I say fair play to them. You know, Bayer Leverkusen have been utterly brilliant, and I think they've been really enjoyable to watch. And I think they deserve all the plaudits that they and Xabi Alonso and our very own Granit Xhaka are getting. I think what that says about Granit Xhaka is that, like, you know, he's gone from Arsenal to. Just going to plug in my classic thing where I forget to plug in the. There we go. I just think it shows his last 2 seasons has really proven to people how good Granit Xhaka is. And finally, we got him into a good position. We got him playing his best role, and Xabi Alonso's getting even more from him potentially in another slightly different role. That talent was there. We just never used it properly, which is a real shame. Let's go to Oki says, question, with Havertz's best performances coming at centre forward this season, can a case be made that another left eight is required? No, because that other left eight is going to be Declan Rice. Declan Rice's future for me is as an 8. It is not as a 6. I think Arsenal need to go and find their dream number 6 still that is going to play behind Declan. I think Declan Rice is proving and is going to be a stunning box-to-box midfielder. I think he's got the potential to be one of the best box-to-box midfielders that can do it in both thirds amazingly well. He's transitioned this season into that role and done it so elegantly and blissfully and seamlessly. All the Lees, other than Judges. But I think that it's just been so easy for him to do. I just see him as an amazing player that will ultimately be hopefully very successful in that position. Let's go to Ewegbu says, Tom, what is your preferred lineup to be today if we decide to rest Saka and Martinelli is not fully fit? I think you'd then have to go with Jesus, Trossard, and Havertz in the front 3. That's probably what you would have to do. Magambo says, what is 6 and 8 technically? So your 6 if you're using the Ajax number system would be your defensive midfielder, and your 8s are your box-to-box players, and a 10 is your attacking midfielder. But there's different number systems based upon different types of teams that have played in the past. Like in that system, a 7 is on the right midfield or right wing. Your 2s, 3s, 4s, you know, these are players in the back line. So, yeah, I think that it's just a really easy way of kind of looking at DMs and centre mids and stuff. So there you go. Oki says he's one of the best 6s in the world for me, Tom. He may grow into an 8 role, but it would be robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's an analogy that I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think so, Oki. I think he's been brilliant. I think we'll be able to find a player that can do the 6 role amazingly well, and I think there'll be players out there do it, and I think he will be able to cover that. I think he can do both. That's the brilliant thing about Declan Rice. I think we could do a combination of things. I just don't want to see Havertz in the midfield. Keep Havertz as far away from the midfield 3 as possible, and you will get the best from Kai Havertz. The most that I can think of doing is playing Havertz as like a 10. And as a second striker as feasibly possible in that 10 role. But other than that, I do not want to see Kai Havertz in the midfield. I just don't. I just think he's a glorious player when he plays as this false 9. I think he's so unpredictable. I think he's so nonchalant in the way he plays. And I think it's just so glorious seeing him prove so many people wrong. It's great. Like, just keep him out of the midfield 3. He can drop into midfield from centre forward. I don't mind him doing that. That's fine. But I need him to have the space. I need him to be, and his priority to be playing off that defensive line. So, absolutely, Kai Havertz cannot be one of the starting 3 in midfield, but he absolutely can still drop in deeper. But it's about him playing and starting on paper, at least in that number 9 position, and if not, in a very much advanced number 10, so much so that it's a second striker. Robbing Peter to pay Paul is a well-known expression. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Just like Pearl Jam or a well-known band. Does not mean I'm going to know what it is. It is. Some people know things. Other people don't know things. Every day is a school day, so there you go. Trevor says, showing your age again, Tom. It's an old saying. There you go. Probably, yeah. I do find it odd that people pick on the points of like, I just don't really like some things I just don't know. It's like, how could you not know this? This is disgraceful. It's some punishment needs to be found for you. There you go. Othermod says, never heard of robbing Peter to pay Paul either. So there you go. Who are Peter and Paul? Like, is it a Bible thing? Is it like from the Bible? Yes, I imagine that might be where it's from, but yeah, no idea. John says, how do you think Ramsdale will be feeling today? I think he'll be buzzing, mate. I think he'll be absolutely buzzing to play this game. I think he's been, gagging at the bit to play, and I really look forward to seeing him some work. So there you go. Let's go to Wegbrew says, I think Arteta is looking for either a more of a better 8 or a 6. Might be a Luiz who can play the 8 role and then Declan play the 6, or Fofana who can play the 6 and Rice play the 8. It might depend on who we sign. You're right. Depending on who we sign, it might then push Rice into a different position. So I think it will depend upon who we sign. So that's worth it. And Blackapez says, how is FPL looking this season? Shall we do an FPL update? How is the TGT league going? I mean, our TGT fantasy league has got thousands of people in it. I'm like 483rd in that league, and I'm not even that bad. But if I scroll down the list of how many we've now got in this league, it's well over 1,000. Like I'm scrolling now past 600, past 700, past 800. If we're over like 2,000, that would be pretty insane. I don't know if I think the FPL code's always been. Have I got the FPL code? I think I saved it as one of our banners. Yes, there it is. The FPL code's on the screen if you would like to join our fantasy league. We're over 1,515. And just a shout out to Coffee Isco, who is bottom of our league, who's his team's not even that bad. He's got 488 points. Maybe he started late this season. That's the only answer I can come up with. He's got 483 points. His team is Raya, Romero, Ruben Diaz, Canate, Douglas Luiz, Jared Bowen, Declan Rice, Saka, Watkins, Tony Haaland. So, I mean, it's a good team. But, I'm currently 483rd. Top of our league with 1,792 points is Gareth Mooch and his team Galaxy 11. His team is Areola, Trippier, Shah, Gabriel, Palmer, Bailey, Foden, Saka, Haaland, Tony, Watkins. It's his team. My team... Should I give you my team for this week? No, I'm not going to do that because I am competitive. So I'm not going to give you any more of my tips. But yes, the fact the TGT Members League, which is in our Discord server at the moment, I'm 26th, which isn't too bad out of 84. So I'm in the top third. Top third's not too bad, and I got more points last week, I think, than anyone else definitely in our members league. Yeah, I got 104 points last week, which was very good. And I'm very happy with that. But yeah, if you want to join the league, the code was on the screen a second ago. I'll read it out for those that are on audio. It is a CFJ092 is the FPL code for those that would like to join. There you go. And Balakapez says that they're asking because they're second in the league. Well, there you go. That's why. So you just wanted the credit. You didn't care about me and my fantasy abilities. You just wanted to see that you were second in our league. It's terrible, terrible behaviour. I think that I'm gonna end the show in protest. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate your time. Trevor says, "Who cares? It's the football we want to hear about." Trevor's joined the group of. I'm so tempted to create an Idiot's Corner, and I don't think Trevor joins Idiot's Corner. For those that listen to LBC and James O'Brien will know exactly what Idiot's Corner is. I've been so tempted, but I'm so conscious of this show becoming basically like Arsenal for James O'Brien because there's so many things I appreciate about his show and his phone-ins and stuff. But I hate these comments. It's like people listen to this show and expect it to be tailored specifically to what they want. Trevor's just showing that selfishness, just like that. It's like the sexists that tune in and say, "Stop talking about women's football." Like, it's just like those weirdos. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time as always. I hope you have a fantastic Saturday. That is, of course, helped by a massive win today at home against Brentford. I'll be at the stadium a little bit later on this afternoon. I'm very much looking forward to it. I can't wait to get there and watch Arsenal hopefully pick apart and take apart a brilliant Brentford team on their day. To be fair, under Thomas Frank is a very good manager, but I hope that we can absolutely destroy it. And I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much for listening. As I said, please do drop a like on yesterday's show if you haven't done so already and help us to get to 1K over there. And then, of course, please do drop a like here to help us to 1K every single day. Carrie Ann says, how do I join the Discord server? If you're a member, an expert, it has to be an expert member or a TGT ambassador. If you go to the community tab, there should be a link to join. If it's out of date or isn't working, please do leave a comment underneath it and I will update it with a brand new one for you. But there you go, Carrie Ann. Thank you for your kind support of the channel. See you all very soon. I'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8 a.m. to give you a roundup and a breakdown of today's game ahead of that match between Liverpool and Manchester City as well. Stay safe, stay well, happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.